This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Welcome to the Easthampton City Council meeting for Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. The meeting tonight is being recorded and broadcast by eMedia on Charter Channel 193 and live streaming on their webpage, easthamptonmedia.org. Councilors and participants in this meeting are gathered hybrid on the order extended until June 30th, 2027, allowing us to do so. I remind both the members of the City Council and the public participating remotely to remain muted until recognized by the City Council President. Also, for the members of the public, please remove your camera for the duration of the meeting unless you are participating in the public speak time or the public hearing. Thank you. This meeting is now called to order. Mary Ann.
J.P. Kwasinski.
Here.
Connie Denham.
Here.
Tamara Smith.
Here.
Felicia Jadzak.
Here.
Tom Peak.
Here.
Jonathan Schmidt.
Here.
Amanda Newton. Here. Kayam Jamrog McQuaid.
Here.
Nathan Marquis.
Here.
For a moment of silence, I just want to acknowledge a couple of people that we lost in our community in the last couple of weeks. First individual was Marvin Ward, and this council knows Marvin. He often sat in the front row and was often a participant in our conversations for public speak, and also attended a number of our committee meetings, in particular public safety. He was really very passionate about public safety. He cared very much about members of the community and making sure that they were safe on our roads. His presence is very missed. I'd also like to acknowledge Janie Thurber. She was a member of the Lathrop community, and she was very active in the peace and justice activities within the community. And so I'm particularly feeling her loss as we think about what's going on in the world. So just want to take a moment of silence for those two individuals and anyone else that folks are thinking about this evening, and anything that folks need to be thinking about to help themselves be present for this evening. Thank you. Again, they will be very missed. For anyone who would like to participate in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance, now is your opportunity to do so.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great. Thank you. We have some meeting minutes. I will take a motion to approve.
They'll be available next time.
They'll be available next time. Thank you. Public comment. Is there anyone who would like to address any issue that is not on the agenda or under public hearing? No one in the room. Anyone online? Okay. It is not 6:15, so we're going to continue. We have no items for immediate attention, no communication, correspondence, mayor's communication. I do not see the mayor, and I do not believe he's online. Okay.
Oh, there he is.
There's the mayor. Would the mayor like to participate in mayor's communication?
Already?
Yes, sir.
All right, guys are quick. Yes, I would.
Great.
Thanks for waiting for me.
Hey.
Just wanna, I have a few things since I missed you all last time. So I wanted to give a quick update on Pepin, because you might see some action there, and I wanna make sure everybody's in the know. So last week, more than one sprinkler head broke. It wasn't necessarily the cold, it was rusty. So we had to turn off the water to Pepin. I had conversations with DPW Director Nudelman, who's also our facilities manager. And he recommended that we shut the water off at the street and potentially shut the power off. So that created a broader conversation with the fire chief, because having a building of that size in a neighborhood, we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to do anything that was potentially hazardous to the surrounding buildings. We discussed it, realized, the majority of Pepin is brick and masonry. It's a very non-flammable building. And really, if we turn off the electricity, the only real potential hazard for a fire there is someone squatting. So that's why I wanted to update you. You're gonna probably see some boards going up to further harden the building against people getting inside. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that that's the reasoning. And I do have a quick little update on the schools. So I think I might have mentioned maybe the last time I was here that I was gonna try to get an audience with the Lieutenant Governor and Secretary Augustus, which I was able to get yesterday. And we talked about our school reuse project, and I expressed to them some of the challenges of carrying these older buildings over multiple years, and trying to find ways to expedite the process of turning these beautiful buildings into beautiful housing for our residents. They were I gotta give them credit, they were really receptive, really willing to work with us. One of the affordable housing rounds had just closed, the other one's opening up like next week, and so they were double checking to make sure that we are in the queue. They're double checking to see if there's anything that they can do to help expedite the process. So it was, that ended up being a really productive opportunity. So I just wanted to update you on that. And the reason why I was able to speak to them, I was yesterday, it was a really great honor to be able to go up to Pittsfield and be part of a grant award ceremony. So Sierra Vista was granted $165,000 for affordable rental units. So this was 30 units of 60% of average median income. I believe it was 6 units at 30%, and then there was a handful of units for people with disabilities. So that was a really, and that was a mini grant. And if anybody has any questions on that, I can just give you what the printout is about the grant if you're interested. So I just wanted to make sure that you all update on that and knew that was happening. I wanted to also let you know the budget process is underway. So now we're meeting with departments and going through and taking a look at the numbers as these things kind of continue to materialize. We'll keep the Finance Committee in the loop. I know that we just set our meeting with President Denham and Vice President Jadzik to do the City Council budget. So that meeting's forthcoming too. I also, I have a long list, I'm so sorry. I was asked by Councilor Kwasinski to give an update on cultural chaos. And I just wanted to make sure that people were aware of what's going on. And again, this is not something that has originated from my office. This is the ECA came to me and let me know that over the years, cultural chaos has become a more difficult event to facilitate. While it has great value to the community, and I want to acknowledge that, and like the years of cultural chaos have done a lot of things in our cultural district, I think, and have been a meaningful experience for a lot of people. One of my goals as mayor is to not tell people what to do, but to listen to the people that are on the ground doing the work. And I, when they came to me and let me know that, not only was this a significant use of their time and energy, that the volunteers have kind of fizzled in a way, and that this is pretty much their entire budget for the year. They asked if it was okay to take a reprieve for this year. And I think that this, while it is bittersweet, I think that, and I don't know if they've made the ultimate decision and voted, officially to not do it this year. But I do know that if they don't, I think it's on the table for next year to look at again, and maybe like a modified, where, because a lot of the expenses for cultural chaos come from public safety, because we have to pay them overtime, and we have to have a pretty good contingent there to close the roads and and whatnot. So maybe looking at like a closing from Nini's to Brass Cat. So that way it's less disruptive to the traffic flow, and you would need less public safety presence to manage traffic. And to find creative ways to coordinate with Art in the Orchard, which is a bi-yearly event. And so maybe have them alternate. So maybe one year you have Cultural Chaos, next year it's Art in the Orchard. So things like that to try to find. And I will say also there's like plans, and I have full faith in the ECA and the creative vision that they have to do some things that are going to be amazingly great and are not going to there will be things for people to do, but there will be many more days of things for people to do. And I think the quality of it will be really great too. So, while it is a sad thing for some people, I think it's also an opportunity, and hopefully we'll get it back next year too. So I just wanted to put that out there. I found out today that I put my hat in the ring for the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission to be the alternate for our sub-area for the MPO, which is the Municipal Planning Organization, which is a pretty important board that basically looks at all of the highway projects and federal money and state money that are coming to Western Mass region and kind of allocates those. And I found out today that I am the alternate now for District 3. And so Gina Louise Sakara, the mayor of Northampton, is the primary. And so in her absence, I am now for the next 2 years on the MPO as an alternate, which is really good news for Easthampton. I would be remiss to not say thank you to the Nashawanic Pond Committee for Winterfest, and hopefully people were able to get out and enjoy it. I really was bummed I missed the polar plunge. I saw President Denham out there jumping in with, that must have been...
Thank you for the reminder.
Yes. I was hoping to be there with you, but unfortunately I had a scheduling conflict. So next year, we'll jump, we'll a whole new meaning to jump in a lake, right? So, okay. Just a couple other things I think are important. Number one, wastewater treatment plant. Just want to give an update. There is more scheduled maintenance starting next week. There is the possibility for smell. So hopefully it'll be cold and people will have their windows closed and it won't be too bad, but I did want to just make sure, like that came through my office today. I wanted to make sure I let people know because I know it stinks when it's a surprise. And then finally, I did want to just let people know that starting in March, the first Thursday of the month, I'm going to have open office hours for anybody that wants to, complain about the smell of the wastewater treatment plant or talk about good things that are happening in Easthampton. And I have 20-minute blocks, and they can schedule those blocks if they just email mayor@easthamptonma.gov. And that concludes my lengthy report, so thank you.
I just have a couple questions. So related to the sprinkler at Putnam School, did that cause any substantial damage?
No, not any substantial damage that wasn't already damaged. I did tour the building a couple of months ago, and last year a water main had broken and did damage the gym floor, which is why I didn't make the gym available this winter for people, which was one of my plans, because the floor is buckled. So there already is some damage in there, but this particular one didn't cause any. It was just on a linoleum floor. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Kwasinski, thank you, Councilor Jamrock McQuaid, for that question. Councilor Kwasinski.
I have a question for the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
With regard to the Pepin building, I hear that you're going to be putting up secure blockage so folks can't get inside, and that's great. I often see plywood across windows and doors and all over the building and wherever, and it really can be kind of
an eyesore.
A real eyesore. Is there any plans anywhere or any funds to do something creative? I don't know how long they're going to be up. They may only be up a few weeks. Could be. I'm imagining for the rest of the season or longer, perhaps. And if so, that's an eyesore for quite a long time. Is there any way to make it different or beautify it or put like an artwork or have be creative and have students draw something that could be posted on these?
Sure. And I will say, I will take that. I think the answer to your question is yes. Absolutely. I think the more practical kind of consideration is, how would we get that done? So I think that's something that I'd be happy to talk to our planning department in Pascagoula and see if there's any interest for, because we also have some plywood up at Maple School. We had some vandals there that threw rocks through the windows. And obviously, my goal is to try to get those buildings back into action as soon as possible. But, in the meantime, obviously we don't want to create an eyesore. So I think that could be a great project for, an art class at one of the schools. That's not necessarily my forte to coordinate, but I can set those wheels in motion. Mm-hmm. I'd be happy to do that.
Great, thank you.
Cool.
It is 6:15. Are there any other questions? We'd have to wait till after the public hearing. Seeing none. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. It is 6:15. I will take a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Great. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great, motion passes. I will turn it over to Chair Peak.
Thank you, Madam President. This is an item that has been on our agenda for quite some time, to the point that many of you, I think, were not on the City Council when it was introduced. So I can talk about it. I'll give a brief summary of kind of where we were, but to avoid burying the lead, we had met and discussed this, and I think that at the end of the night, my recommendation is going to be to withdraw this without prejudice for now, and I'll talk about why and sort of what some of our ideas are going forward. But the idea of this was to adopt a section of the Mass General Law that would effectively allow the City Council, under certain circumstances, with the recommendations of the school committee, to actually reallocate money away from some other fund, if we can all agree on a funding source, and towards the school budget. There's a lot of specifics about exactly how that would go down, but this was something that I think was seen as attractive. Some of you were either here for or in some other way a stakeholder and paid attention to sort of how there was a particularly tricky budget year in 2022 where Councillor Kwasinski actually introduced this as an item for us to consider, but it didn't pass in part because it would have required the mayor would have been able to veto it. It was quite clear that the mayor was going to do so, and so it just kind of wasn't worth it sort of died there. We were in a situation last year where we had an interim mayor who was a city councilor at that time and who had sort of seen things through that perspective, and so I had received some communication from a few members of our school committee at that time saying, let's put this forward and have a conversation about it. And there's a few things that sort of transpired there, but one of the things that I think is worth pointing out is that I think the level of anxiety that this provoked from other departments, it's understandable from their point of view, but I don't think that myself or the folks who had recommended this from the school committee fully understood sort of how that dynamic would be viewed in that situation. So this ended up being a little bit more divisive than I ultimately thought it was going to be. So there was a thought at the time that it made sense to wait since this was weeks before the municipal election, there was a thought that it would make more sense to wait until after the election when we had a fully sworn in an elected council to vote on this, which is why it was sort of deferred until now. I think that a few things have come up in the meantime. One of them, so I had a meeting last week with school committee chair Laura Scott, who it looks like is here online, so I'll let her speak her own opinions on this, but and then also with Mayor Derby. And I think that there was a couple things. One of the things that we sort of discussed was that there wasn't a feeling from the school committee that at this time this was seen as a priority for them. There's some different ways that the budget things are working out with the new mayor, and there's a thought that sort of, it would make sense to let that play out and see how that develops. And the other thing is that it just, they're sort of the optics around it and sort of the reaction that it got maybe made it more of a distraction than it needed to be at the time. There was a feeling, though, that from myself and from Chair Scott, and I think to some extent from Mayor Derby, that there is, like, notwithstanding this particular thing, there probably is, under all of this, as part of the motivation for talking about it, a desire to maybe revisit some things about the checks and balances in our charter. Our charter was established 30 years ago. Easthampton is in a different place than it was 30 years ago. And also, I think that there's some things that we've seen play out in ways that maybe make us think that we should just revisit, like, this made sense to the people at the time. Have we learned any lessons? Have there been things that maybe we've decided don't work so well or work better? There's a few ways to do that. One could be through a charter review committee that would then make a recommendation to the legislature and ask them to revise our charter, which is what we've historically done. The other option would be to actually do a full-on charter commission where members are actually elected to serve on this commission and to then make a recommendation that then goes before all the voters, which is something that I personally find very attractive. The benefit that both of these have is that they'd be more comprehensive. The reason why the thing that we introduced pertained only to the schools is because there's only an option to do these sorts of things for the schools in Mass General Law. There isn't something that more comprehensively addresses those concerns. We could do that, though, through a more complete process. And if the feeling from the school committee is that there isn't an urgent need to adopt this for this budget cycle, then my thought is that what would make sense would be to dismiss this particular item without prejudice and then sort of pivot my own efforts and the efforts of anyone else who would like to join me in this conversation, to pivot towards trying to figure out what's a more robust and holistic way to address some of what I think are kind of legitimate concerns about the checks and balances within our charter. So that, I'm sure there's probably questions, and I know that there's probably a couple people who want to speak to this, but just for what it's worth, after everyone's had a chance to speak, what I would be doing is making a motion to dismiss this matter without prejudice. And we can always bring it back if it seemed like the dynamic had shifted and it was going to be something that was necessary, but that's sort of where I personally am at this time.
Thank you, Chair Peak. Questions?
I guess I have a question, if I could.
Wait, hang on a second. Councilor Markey?
I agree with Councilor Peak's take on this. I think that having a robust commission, I also would be in favor of a commission in this particular instance, would serve us well rather than amending our charter as is and putting it up to the voters and stuff. That's all I have to say.
Great, thank you, Councilor Markey. Councilor Schmidt?
Yeah, thank you. My question is just if you have any idea, Councilor Peak, as to how lengthy a process it would be, either the review versus the full-on commission?
Yeah, I do have some thoughts on this.
Actually, sorry.
Hold on. I was going to get there.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, the one concern I have is that topic is not technically what we're talking about. So I would love to talk to you one-on-one about this, but I don't feel like I can deliberate about it here.
Yeah.
But I have a lot of thoughts, and I'd love to talk about it.
Councilor Jamrock McQuaid?
Thank you, Madam President. So I've spoken from that side of the podium related to this, and I think immediately on a level of principle, I definitely support the idea of more democratic control over our budget and less moving power away from one individual executive and spreading the love. That being said, I definitely think that there are really valid concerns that were brought up from other department heads and other members of this body that I think are definitely worth taking a step back and I think looking ahead at a more holistic process. I think that there are other ways that we can address those concerns that I have. So I would agree with removing this without prejudice.
Other questions, comments? Councilor Kwasinski.
Could we hear from the public? And
Yep, I was just,
before making comments also?
anyone from the public who would like to speak on this item? Anyone online who would like to speak to this matter, item? Seeing none. Councilor Kwasinski, did you have a question or comment?
Just a comment, I think. I agree with Councilor Peak that the impetus to move this forward was really precipitated by the interactions between the mayor, previous mayor, and this council, previous council. So it became such that the council felt absolutely powerless, I felt, to be able to influence the mayor in the process, powerless. And that isn't a good situation to be when you're seeing something and the community that we represent sees something that really is 180 degrees from the mayor's position. We need to have a situation where there is more balance. And this was a way, this measure was a way of establishing some way of having a required communication between the mayor and the council on the subject. And that's what was missing. There wasn't that communication. As much as I hate to see that opportunity be lost for the future, for the time being, by not bringing it to the forefront, I do see the benefit of having a remedy that includes the charter. And a remedy that includes the charter would enable us to establish a process where there would be limits. That limits, at this point, I would suggest be language that would include more than the required 6 votes. So what I'm suggesting is that should we have further discussion, one of the amendments I would propose would be that it be an super majority, that it would be required to override the mayor's veto. Or rather than, that there be a supermajority. 6 votes really is enough. You can get 6 votes on this council. You can get 6 people to agree to override and fund the mayor, fund the, say for example, in this case, the schools. I think that we need to have more than that number to take such an action at this point. So that would be my thoughts on the subject. I would agree with Councilor Peak that we put it off the agenda for the moment and without prejudice. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Other comment? Chair Peak, do you want to make a motion?
I would. I just want to point out one thing before I do, which is that I think Dan Gilbert here came because he wanted to speak to what a charter review or a charter revision process would look like, and then the conversation that we had was sort of about how that's not really what we should discuss. So I'm wondering if we couldn't respectfully just briefly reopen public speak at the end of this process so that he could get that comment in that context.
Sure.
I just think there was a misunderstanding about how that works.
Sure, we can suspend the rules after this. Yeah.
I would make a motion to dismiss the City Council action request to adopt Chapter 329 of the Acts of 1987 without prejudice.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to remove City Council action request to adopt Chapter 329 of the Acts of 1987 without prejudice. Any further discussion? I'd actually like to say something if no one else does. I appreciate the level of thought that went into this item. I recognize the challenges there are within the perceived process. I also want to acknowledge that one of the ways that we were able to, the council was able to stop the president or the mayor at that time from cutting the school budget and being able to go back was that Councilor Peak and I exerted our power in the finance committee, where we sent the item back to the full council without recommendation. And I think that then also led to other councilors saying, hang on a second, this needs further discussion. And so I think there are ways that council has power, and we oftentimes choose not to use it. So I just want to acknowledge that. But I also want to acknowledge the department heads who expressed a great deal of concern around this particular item. I think that we are in a financially precarious time, and their ability to provide service to the community and their ability to ensure that their employees are taken care of, I think this created a lot of issue and anxiety for them. And I hope that, moving forward, we can have a more robust and thoughtful conversation where perhaps more community members are involved in that conversation. I think that that's just, a fair, a fair process. Because I think at the end of the day, for myself, I don't want to speak for everyone. My goal is in the next couple of years, if the financial forecast of the city, holds true, and there are concerns around cuts, that I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that we get everyone across and through that collectively. And so that is a priority for me. So including the schools, and I say that as an educator, right? There's nothing more important to me than educating our young people. So I very much appreciate the fact that this is being removed without prejudice, and I look forward to future conversations. So if there's no other discussions, I will, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, motion passes. I will take.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second. I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing.
Move to suspend the rules.
Well, hang on a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great, motion passes.
Move to suspend the rules.
So I have a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. So we will suspend the rules, and I will reopen the public speak. So please go to the podium, state your name and address, and we will give you 3 minutes, give or take. So please.
Sure. My name's Dan Gilbert. I live on Parsons Street. Councilor Peak asked me to come tonight to talk a little bit about the Charter Commission process, which is something that I've already, started the very, very first few steps of. So the Charter Commission process is very different than the Charter Review process. Charter Review is just a committee that makes recommendations. Charter Commission is not a process that's initiated by the City Council. It's initiated by petition. Currently in Easthampton, based on our last election, we need a little bit over 2,000 registered voter signatures in order to start a Charter Commission. That is it's a doable number. It would take a fair amount of work from a number of dedicated people, but it's very doable. There's no time limit in that, so it can go over the course of months or years to collect that. Once that happens, it triggers on the next city election 2 things. 1, ballot question, shall we have a charter commission? Voters vote yes or no. At the very same time, on the same ballot, we elect 9 people to that commission. If the voters say no, then that's moot. But it does happen on this same ballot. That then starts an 18-month process where those 9 people meet. There's various public hearings. They produce a new charter or a charter revision. That charter does not go to the state legislature. It goes to the Attorney General for review of legality. And then it goes back to voters the next cycle or the next cycle after that committee finishes for approval or not. If it doesn't pass, the charter doesn't change. If it does pass, then that's your new charter. So it's a very powerful tool to, I don't want to waste your guys' time, and I'm very happy to answer any questions anybody has about this. My personal interest in this is that it is a check on the state legislature for our own home rule. So there are various home rule petitions. There's one I care about a lot, and there's others as well, that the legislature has failed to take action on. So this is the way that we can amend our charter the other way. And if they fail to act, this is our only way of amending our charter. So this is the check on the state legislature's refusal to act. While at the same time, it's a very convenient way of making charter revisions for the city, just because of all the democracy involved in it, like the number of public votes and the 9 people who are elected. The one other thing I'll add is that there is no restriction to who can serve on that. You have to be a registered voter in the city, but that's it. So you can be the mayor, you can be a city councilor, and run for this slate of 9.
Good.
That's all I got.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan.
Sure.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. I've reopened it, so anyone else would have comment? None? All right. Thank you so much. So we'll continue on with the agenda.
Do we need to close public speak?
No, public speak is closed. The public comment is closed. So moving on to President, Vice President communication. In specific regard to the adoption of 329, I told our school committee chair, Laura Scott, that I would be committed to participating in any trainings that the school committee has regarding finances, et cetera, and we will be doing that. Actually, 4 of us will be participating in that on March 21st. So we will be attending that with a couple of school committee members, and we will be going through the same training that they do and getting some information on kind of their finance process, as well as just other items related to their work. So I am committed to that, and I will be participating in that with some other individuals. Mayor Derby brought this up. I will, myself and Vice President Jadzik will be participating with him in a budget discussion on March 3rd with the finance team, going over our not robust budget, but enough of a budget, right, that we'll be meeting with them to discuss that. So that will be happening on March 3rd. Also want to just extend thanks to Beth Tiffany and everyone else on the National Wellington Pond Committee that put together Winterfest. It was really a wonderful community event. It was great to see people of all ages jumping in the pond, as well as participating in the other activities. So it was for a first-time pond jumper, although I have been in the pond with the fire department being rescued. But it was a really a great community event. And I really appreciated that. I didn't appreciate the photo of me on the Gazette coming out of the water, but nonetheless, it was a really positive experience. And so I want to thank everyone who participated in that for their work. Vice President Jadzik, do you have anything that you want to communicate?
Yes, thank you, President Denham. I just have one item, and I'm sharing this both for folks in the room, and I see some elected officials online as well. So the Mass Municipal Association is holding a leadership conference on March 27th for any women who are elected municipal officials. Any woman who is an elected municipal official in Massachusetts is considered a member of what they call WeMo and is invited to this conference. So if anyone's interested and has not received that communication, please let me know and I'll be happy to forward that along to you.
Awesome, great. Thank you so much. Council communication, any announcements from councilors? Councilor Jamrock McQuaid, I know you have something.
Thank you, Madam President. So just reminding everyone again about the Easthampton Tenants Union. They meet weekly every Thursday from 5 to 6:30. They were meeting in city council chambers now because it's gotten that big of a group. They're sharing resources on tenants' rights and building solidarity, empowered numbers. And I will just say, I've been going for a number of weeks now and they're consistently getting dozens of people. It is a really powerful group and they're sharing some really important information. And I'm giving a presentation tomorrow night related to the rent stabilization work we're doing in the community or in the community. So.
Great, thank you. And I've also had the opportunity of sharing in that group, so it's really a great opportunity. I encourage anyone to attend that and hear what your constituents are saying. I know Councilor Newton, you've also attended, so really a positive experience. Anyone else? Just want to make sure no one else. All right, great. So we will start with our committee reports. Chair Peak, Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. Finance has not met since the last time that we met. We will be meeting next week at our regularly scheduled time, but I believe the room is going to be different because...
City Council chambers.
Okay.
Because of the Board of Public Works meeting in room 1, they'll be meeting up here.
Yes, so we'll be here. But same regular 5:30 time. We'll be discussing a financial report an update from our auditor, as well as the new business that we'll be introducing later this evening.
Great.
This concludes.
Great, thank you, Chair Peak. Chair Newton, Public Safety.
Yes, so we have not met since our last meeting, but we do have one scheduled for March 3rd in Conference Room 1. And Director Nuttleman of the DPW will be with us that day. There is one item on here, which is the roadway infrastructure and pedestrian safety items that we would like to, and I don't know how to make this motion, but we would like to extend it so that it doesn't have a termination date. It's just something that we can continue to talk about.
Great. Would you like 60 days, 90 days?
Can we extend it indefinitely, or is that not possible? So the public safety quarterly review one is just like, there's just a start date, there's no end date.
So for now, let's just do a 90 days,
okay,
and then we'll figure that out.
Okay, thanks.
So I have a motion to extend the roadway infrastructure and pedestrian safety items for 90 days.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? None, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Great, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. This concludes public safety.
Great, thank you. Chair Smith, appointments.
Okay, thank you, President Denham. We met last night at 5 o'clock to discuss the mayoral appointment for Marlene Machonsky for the Parks and Rec Commission with a term expiration of 12/31/29. This is a reappointment to the commission, and the chair of the commission was anxious to have her reappointed. So we voted, did we vote 3-0? I don't have my notes in front of me. Did we end up voting 3-0, or did we just say we would bring that to the full council?
I don't believe we had a vote for that.
Okay.
Yeah, we did not vote on that.
Okay.
I'll double check it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm okay to pause on that, but that will mean that the date for her appointment will be on 2/21/26. So yes, that will just move forward. And then the other thing that we have as an action committee is for my name.
Chair Smith, 1 second.
If you don't mind me jumping in, I'm just looking at my meeting minute notes. We actually did vote to approve Marlene Machonsky for reappointment, barring any concerning information that may arise in the interim, because I believe you would reach out to the Parks and Rec Committee to see if they had any concerns. The vote was 3-0 in favor of her reappointment.
Okay, that was my memory as well, but I didn't. Okay, so I guess we will move that mayoral appointment to the full city council, and then I need to recuse myself from the next appointment, and I will move it to.
So before we do that, do you want to make a motion to approve Marlene Machonsky?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve Marlene Machonsky.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve one mayoral appointment. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? Abstentions? Great. Motion passes. Okay. And then we'll turn it over to Vice President Jadzik.
Thank you. I'll take over at this point. So the next vote that we held, or the next appointment that I'd like to move forward to full council rather, is for Councilor Smith, who is being appointed to the Bees Committee as the City Council representative on the Bees Committee. Councilor Marquis and myself had a discussion with Councilor Smith about her interest in this position. I don't think I have to tell anyone who knows Councilor Smith. She is a huge gardener, is very invested in this type of work. I know has held many personal interactions and workshops around things like winter sewing and the like. And so we both felt that it was a great fit for Councilor Smith. And so we recommended her, well, this is where it's a little bit of a gray area, but her term expiration date would be December 31st, 2028. While the appointment did not need to be approved by our committee, we agreed that at this council level, we had agreed that in the future we will be inviting city council presidential appointees to meet with the appointments committee for the sake of transparency and prudence. And so that is what we did last night. And so I'm not sure if we have to formally recommend or not. But
Yep. So the presidential appointment to the Bees Committee does have to be approved by City Council. And it goes through the appointments process. So it sounds like you voted 2-0 to approve her.
Yes.
Right. All right. So do you want to make a motion to approve?
Yes, so I'd like to make a motion to approve Councilor Smith's appointment to the Bees Committee with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2028.
Second.
Great. So we have a motion and a second to approve Councilor Smith to the Bees Committee. Any further discussion? I'll make a comment. As someone who served as the City Council representative to the Bees Committee, it is a really wonderful and terrific group of people, and I know that you're going to be, you're going to fit in great, and you're going to be a huge advocate for them. So I appreciate you being the next person in City Council to take that over. So
Thanks.
Great. Any other comments? Great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? One abstention. All right, great. Motion passes. Anything else for appointments committee?
That's it for appointments tonight, President.
All right, great. Moving on to ordinance committee, Chair Jamrod McQuaid.
Thank you, Madam President. So Ordinance Committee has not met since January 20th, so not since our last meeting, but I do have some updates. I did have the chance to meet with city staff to finalize some of the draft ordinance related to short-term rentals. And we're going to be presenting that at our next ordinance meeting tomorrow, February 19th at 6 p.m., and that's down in Conference Room B. We're going to be continuing that discussion and hopefully finalizing that ordinance and moving it to get approved by the city solicitor. We're also going to release an advisory info sheet alongside it that sort of clearly lays out the recommendations and regulations for people who, aren't comfortable reading an ordinance. I also want to clarify, so the public hearing for the general ordinance and zoning ordinance changes. We extended those at the last city council meeting to Wednesday, March 18th. So I just wanted to put that again in the public record. And that will be at 6:15 p.m. in these chambers on March 18th. The other item on the agenda that I wanted to give an update about was the Affordable Housing Partnership zoning recommendations. So the Housing Partnership met with the Aquifer Protection Committee on January 22nd to discuss some of the use and area dimensional regulations side of the zoning recommendations, particularly with their concerns about how it would impact the aquifer. We had a great presentation with Bob Newton, who's a retired hydrogeologist who sits on the Aquifer Protection Committee. He gave us a whole rundown of the hydrogeology of the valley and the Mount Tom Barnes Aquifer system. It was very interesting and instructive. So if anyone wants to watch that, that's the January 22nd joint meeting between the Housing Partnership and Aquifer Committee. We decided at the end of that meeting to move to gather further information on where the most vulnerable parts of the aquifer are and where in the community is most sensitive to potential additional development. That could look like potentially getting a map or geologic survey done of the clay layers and the, I won't get to in detail. I think that there's still some work to be done about what parts are okay to move forward without that additional information, which we're gonna work on. And then we are going to continue discussion, or the Housing Partnership and the Aquifer Committee is going to continue discussion on information gathering at the next joint meeting between those two committees, and that's going to be on March 5th at 6 p.m. I also wanted to remind the public of the joint public hearing related to the first section of the zoning ordinance recommendations related to the language, community character, definition of family. That is happening, that's a joint public hearing with the Planning Board and the Ordinance Committee, and that is happening on Tuesday, March 3rd at 6 p.m. I'm also pretty sure it's in these chambers. And then I think that's it. Again, I'll remind everyone that our next Ordinance Committee meeting is tomorrow, February 19th at 6 p.m. in Conference Room B, and that concludes.
Great, so we have two items that need their deadlines extended. The Ordinance Review Committee final report has a deadline of 2/27, and the request for general ordinance amendments regarding short-term rentals, that has a deadline of 3/1/26, so that's before our next meeting, so.
All right, so I will move to request an extension for the request to review, or the Ordinance Review Committee's final report for 90 days. Great, so.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to extend the Ordinance Review Committee's final report by 90 days. Any further discussion? None, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Great, motion passes.
And then I would also like to make a motion to extend the request to review general ordinance amendments regarding short-term rentals for 90 days.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to extend the deadline to review the general ordinance amendments regarding short-term rentals by 90 days. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great, motion passes.
Thank you.
Good motion, all right, great. Councilor Kwasinski, property.
Yes, the property committee met and discussed the town lodging house referral for disposition. It was presented to us, an appraisal from the procurement officer, Michael Owens, who presented the appraisal. And it was for $45,000 for the property at Oliver Street and Park Hill Roads, including the farmland and the house. I think the property was valued lower primarily because of the three major restrictions on the property: the affordable housing restriction, the historic preservation restriction, and the aquifer protection restriction, which limits how all the pieces can fit together, and really someone would have to buy the property and assume all of these restrictions. But that did put us over the $35,000 limit for procurement, so we have to go out to an RFP in order to move that along. That process is part of the process for the city council to come up with the terms along with the mayor as to what we're going to have in that proposal, because with two parties have to agree according to Mass General Law in order to sell the property, if that be the case. And we'll be discussing this matter on 2/25 at 6:45 p.m. So 2/25 next at 6:45 p.m. at a room to be determined.
6:45 p.m.?
6:45.
Okay.
I believe that's a Wednesday, yeah.
Okay.
That concludes property.
Before you move on, so Town Lodging House referral for disposition has a end date of March 3rd. Would you like to extend the deadline for that?
Sure, extend for 90 days, or we make a request to extend for 90 days.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to extend the Town Lodging House referral for disposition for 90 days. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, great, motion passes. Rules and Government Relations, again,
Yes.
Chair Kwasinski.
The Rules and Government Relations Committee met and discussed the resolution in support of the water operator retirement reclassification. It was decided to get some additional information on that matter, so that was continued. With regard to the Code of Conduct for appointed members and boards and committees and commissions submitted by Councilor Riley, that matter was discussed. We had broken up some of the responsibilities and tasks of involving various department heads and also contacting other communities about this matter and about how they handle codes of conduct. The general principle will be that we'll be reviewing all hopefully making a policy for all conduct for all boards and committees, however appointed or elected for the city, and that these boards and committees would follow that policy. So we're reviewing the internal policies of city employees and putting that in conjunction to come up with a plan. So that matter will be continued. With regard to Rule 11A, that matter will be continued, and hopefully we'll have a motion on 11A for the next meeting. For Rule 11L, the filing of committee minutes, that we do have some suggested language changes on that. They're minor. I believe the packet, or not the packet, but the information was provided to councilors. Basically, it contains some language changes. There currently is a requirement that the minutes be submitted and published and be available within 3 meetings from the date of the initial meeting. We thought that was a little long, perhaps. Sometimes more time expires. So we are suggesting that the minutes be available within 30 days from the date of the meeting. We can take that up tonight in the form of a motion, or we could discuss that at our next full council meeting, whichever that be the choice of the council.
It's up to you. What would you like to do, Chair Kwasinski?
I wanted to be sure folks felt comfortable with the voting on this. Looking around, are there any questions?
Councilor Marquis?
I don't know if it's a question rather than a suggestion, though I'm in favor of having timely minutes, and months don't roll by without minutes. I feel that 30 days might be a little bit too short, and I would be more comfortable like 45 days or something like that, but that's just my personal opinion on the matter. That's it.
That's something we could discuss if the motion were brought forward.
That's the question. So we're into this, we're having a conversation. So why don't we bring the motion forward and have the conversation?
Sure. The current language, we disclosed the current language, and the proposed language would be final and approved minutes of all committee meetings shall be sent to the city clerk for public availability within 30 days from the date of the meeting for which the minutes are documented. We go on to suggest the committee meeting minutes and meeting agenda templates are as follows, and you'll see on your desk 2 different documents. One is the public meeting notice, which adds a Google Meeting link for sure on the form, and also adds mayoral communications On the committee minutes, that would be a suggested format. These would be in the form of suggestions to make it easier for people who come aboard and end up doing minutes or preparing agendas, and that would be included within the rules.
Second.
Okay, so do you want to do each of these individually, or do you want this all as one motion?
We could present it however the president decided. However, it probably would be simple to do it in one motion, and if then someone wanted to pick different sections apart, they could, or amend different sections.
Okay. Why don't we do them, it would be easier for me just to do them each individually, since that way it's not confusing, right? So if we go back to amendments rule, to amend rule 11A.
11L. 11A is being discussed at a future time.
Sorry.
11L is tonight?
Yes, so 11L, Counselor Marquis indicated he would like
To amend that to make it
to amend that.
45 days instead of 30.
45 days. Okay, so just one second. So I put this forward, and I said 30 days because that's actually in line with open meeting law.
Okay.
So by open meeting law, we have to have it submitted within 30 days. I know that 30 days might seem like a short amount of time, but 30 days is kind of what is expected by Mass General Law. So, Counselor Newton, you have a question?
Yes, so for example, the Public Safety Committee right now is meeting once a month. And so we approve the previous meeting's minutes at that once a month. But if it were like a 31-day, month, we would not be able to even approve them within 30 days.
So, I mean, I think if you're talking a couple of days, it would seem fair. I think what has happened in the past is committees have met and then they don't meet again for like 3 or 5 months. And so the reality is they're just going to even if they meet within those 30 days to approve the minutes, that just seems what's going to have to happen, because I know watching meetings, people have gotten in and said, I don't know if we have meeting minutes because I don't even remember the last time we met was, right? And so, and that's not to mock, I think that's just the reality that we all have busy schedules and sometimes we don't remember. And in the last year in particular, we had a turnover, right? And so the clerk for that committee then stepped off, and then so there was just a lot of confusion around that. So I think that if we're talking within a couple of days of that, I think that we should aim, but also, if you know that you're not going to meet again for a couple of months, then I think it's just our responsibility to the community to make sure that we make our meeting minutes available in a timely manner. But we can talk about that also. Councilor Schmidt.
Thank you, President Denham. I just want to clarify the wording here, because it seems to communicate that the 30-day limit is on submitting the minutes to the clerk and not necessarily approval of the minutes by the committee. And I wonder if other people share that interpretation, or if that's just me. In which case, I think that 30 days is totally reasonable and does not seem dependent on the schedule of the meetings to approve necessarily.
So this was taken directly from what is in the rules now, and all I did was change the 30 days, or what it was, 3 business times to 30 days. But I think that technically it's supposed to go to the city clerk after it's approved, and so I think that's the logic behind getting it to the city clerk within 30 days. Right, so technically, we're not supposed to send them to the city clerk until we've had a meeting and approved them, right? Vice President Jacek.
Yes, thank you, President Denham. Just to follow up on what Councilor Schmidt's question was, I think that there could be a little bit of a sort of delay, if you will, depending on when committees are meeting to approve the previous meeting minutes. However, if a committee is meeting, in my mind, if a committee is meeting and approves the previous meeting or the previous month's minutes, then they're approved. And so theoretically, for the clerk of that committee, it's as simple as just sending an email, even during the meeting, to the city clerk with the approved minutes to stay within that time frame. So I do think that where there might be some cases here and there where we may have a little bit of wiggle room, if you will, the spirit of this, without being too prescriptive with number of days, the spirit of it is to make sure that these processes happen in a timely fashion. So as someone who's clerked and currently clerks, I can say it can get very complicated, especially when you forget about things. And so a best practice that we might want to think about in conjunction with, if we adopt this particular amendment, is for clerks to just immediately send approved minutes to the clerk, to the city clerk rather, once that meeting concludes.
Councilor Peak.
Yeah, in terms of the proposal for the amendment to turn it to 40 to 5 days, I do kind of feel, in the context of what you shared, Madam President, that we should stick with the 30, just because I do think that we should be doing our best to stay within open meeting law. Now, obviously, like, things will happen. Not everything will be perfect. There will be times where you have a meeting where you're planning to approve the minutes and there's a weather delay or someone gets sick or whatever. And so, we're imperfect, we make mistakes, things come up. But I think saying this is the expectation, and then when those things arise, you say, hey, we tried and look, this thing happened. That's one thing, but I do think that at least stating in our records that the expectation is that we're going to organize around meeting this goal, I think is sensible.
Councilor Jamrock McQuaid, and then Councilor Kwasinski.
Yeah, so my first thing was just in response to Councilor Schmidt's comment. I do think that the language reads pretty clearly that final and approved minutes of all committee meetings shall be sent to the city clerk. But that brings me to a question I have, which is, per open meeting law, are approval of meeting minutes required to happen in a public meeting? Or could the clerk or could the city councilors circulate the minutes ahead of time and just approve it?
Yes, they have to happen there. It's a part of the agenda, right? So you would basically, if you know that you're not going to meet for another few months, if you've had a meeting, then you would have to call a meeting in order to approve your minutes, essentially. And so you would have to do that. That would be my interpretation, but I'm open to someone else's opinion as well.
Thank you.
Councilor Kwasinski.
I think we're still debating the 45-day question.
Yeah, I'll withdraw my amendment.
And
We actually, by process, we still didn't approve to even get to that particular point, but we were still kind of in the comments.
in the comments before, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
All right, now that being said, I think it would behoove every council to publish, every committee to publish a meeting just before this council meeting to approve minutes, and that be as a practical matter to think about as a way of meeting the deadlines of changing of keeping within the 30 days, is to say, look, whether we have a regular meeting to discuss other matters, let's all meet to approve minutes just before our regular meeting. So we could have several meetings go on quickly, approve the minutes, then they could be available and the clerk could have them, they could be published, and we would be within the law. I think that makes sense as a kind of conceptual process for us to do, rather than to say, oh my gosh, we got to pull a full meeting together, just get the minutes out in the time just before a regular meeting.
When you say regular, sorry, just a point of clarification. Yeah. When you say regular meeting, you mean the city council?
The full city council meeting.
Oh, okay.
We meet generally twice a month, at least once a month. That would give us all an opportunity to have the minutes prepared and to go over them. So I think if the committee's kept that in mind, that might be an alternative way to meet the 30-day deadline.
Yep, and just to remember that they would have to publish that 48 hours in advance. 40
hours in advance, it'd be published, et cetera, but at least it could be done.
Okay. Councilor Peak.
I was actually going to say a similar thing, although I don't know that it depends from committee to committee. Like for finance, I wouldn't necessarily do that because we generally meet every 2 weeks, so there's not really a need for it. But that's definitely like, if the idea of doing a meeting for a committee that doesn't really have anything on its agenda for the sole purpose of of approving your minutes seems daunting. That is a mechanism that I've seen used before, is to schedule a meeting with the only thing being approval of minutes in that room for 5:45 on a Wednesday before city council. You just go in, you approve the minutes, you're done. You don't need to like set up a whole thing and have everyone. So like there's ways to do it like that if you if you know you're not going to be meeting, or you suspect you're not going to be meeting for a while, just get that over with.
Yeah, great. So I think these are all great suggestions for us how to be able to do it, but sticking with this, Councilor Kwasinski?
I just wanted to add one more point. I think that really is a much better way and suggested way of doing things than to have serial communications among the various committee members to go over the minutes and, oh, geez, that isn't what I said, or it is what I said. That could create real open meeting law problems.
Great. Other comments regarding the amending of Rule 11L? Right. So if I'm seeing no other comments, I will take a motion.
I thought we were discussing.
Well, what happened was we started doing all three, but we're doing each of them individually, so.
I'm happy to read it again. I move to replace the existing language regarding 11L with final and approved minutes of all committee meetings shall be sent to the city clerk for public availability within 30 days from the date of the meeting for which the minutes are documented. Suggested committee meeting minutes and meeting agenda templates are as follows.
Okay, stop.
And we'll stop right there.
Yep, stop right there. All right, so.
Is there a second?
Yep. So I have a motion?
Second.
Second. I have a motion and a second to amend Rule 11L to read, final and approved minutes of all committee meetings shall be sent to the city clerk for public availability within 30 days from the date of the meeting for which the meeting minutes are documented. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Great. Moving on to I think we could do the next two maybe together, but it felt like that one was going to have further discussion. So
sure.
Again, I will turn it over to you, Chair Kwasinski.
So adding to what we just approved, the language I would move to be approved is suggested committee meeting minutes and meeting agenda templates are as follows, and the two attachments for committee minutes and public meeting notice.
Second. So we have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion about either of these?
I have a question. Are we just approving the adoption of the templates, or are we actually talking about the changes on the additions to the templates?
So
the templates.
Both of those things.
Okay.
So the discussion is about the templates.
In that case.
Yeah.
My sole recommendation or request or whatever it would be is that mayoral communications and public speak appear in the same order. I don't have real strong feelings one way or the other, but the inconsistency drives me nuts.
Councilor or Vice President Jadzik?
Yes, no, thank you, Councilor Schmidt. It's an oversight on our part, just dealing with a lot of different documentations for this particular situation. So I believe, and I'll ask Councilor Kwasinski to back me up on this, but I believe we had agreed to put mayoral communications in as the second item. So that would mean that mayor communications on the minutes template should move before public speak.
Okay.
So the change would be to move mayoral communications before public speak.
Yes, and the thought process behind that was in case the mayor had scheduling concerns, we don't always know how long public speak will take, and so that way the mayor could come in, share any communications that the mayor has, and then leave if needed, and then we can move to public speak.
The only other, if I may, the only other thought to that subject is that there may be things that you would want to have the public speak, refer to, that you'd want the mayor to hear before they came necessarily with communications. So that became the only question in your mind. So we were happy either way, but thinking of accommodating the mayor and the mayor's time schedule was to make it number 2. If the council felt otherwise, it could be number 3.
Okay, so we have an amendment to move the mayor's communication on the committee meetings templates to before public speak. Any further discussion? Seeing none, so all those in favor to approve the, so I need a motion, so there's a motion, I need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second to move the mayoral communication before public speak on the committee meetings template. Any further discussion about that? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Great, motion passes. So now we're back to the primary motion. Other questions about either of these? Councillor Peak.
I apologize for this being unbelievably asinine. In the meeting notice template,
Yes.
the seal at the top
Yes.
should probably move just like a centimeter to the right. The edge of it is being clipped. And if we're making this an official document that everyone's using, it's going to drive me crazy for years. I don't even know if that requires a vote. I'm just saying.
Not sure.
So I think that there is another template that we have for that, if I'm not mistaken. So the seal is not what's important to this, I think, is the language.
It wasn't
So we
germane to the
will
discussion.
do that.
We could accommodate that for you.
Yes.
I think.
Councillor Jamrock McQuaid.
Yeah, I guess I was related to that. I was going to ask a point of clarification. So if we already, like, the actual document that is created here isn't like the one that we're forced to use. It's just as long as it looks the same, it has all the same elements in the same places, it'll count.
May I speak to that?
Councillor Krasinski.
The language is suggested.
Okay.
In the previous motion adopted, it was suggested.
Vice President Jadzik.
Thank you. I just wanted to go back to Councillor Peak's request and to say that this is just a printing error, that on the actual document, the full seal is there. So again, these documents I think are mostly meant to live digitally, so I don't foresee that to be an issue, but thank you for pointing that out. And then to just, again, +1 to Councillor Kwasinski's comment to Councillor Jamrock McQuaid. We, I think, had a long discussion about this. We would like to highly recommend that committees use these formats so that really it's for the public's sake, so that everything looks consistent, because what happens right now is that there is no real consistency, so it does differ from committee to committee. So by using the same general format, the public understands where to look for information and what information they should be, what order it's going to be presented in. That being said, for example, you know, if you would like to have, in my opinion, if you'd like to have minutes with a smaller header, you know, I don't think that's the end of the world, but it was really, you know, we're not going to force anyone in this recommended language, but the spirit, again, is that people do follow these formats so that there's just a consistency across all the committees.
And council does have a folder on the drive that every councillor can access, and these documents, once approved, if they're approved, will be made available there, and you can easily kind of download them and pull them so that we have that easy accessibility to that. Great. So any other comment, discussion? So we have a motion and a second for approval, so discussion. So all those in favor to approve the agenda, or I'm sorry, to adopt the committee minutes template, as well as the meeting agenda template. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Great, motion passes. thank you so much to the committee for working on those. I think that, again, in the spirit that this is, it's to make our meetings more accessible for people to be able to kind of follow, to have the information that they need, so that, again, that we are just more accessible to the public. Councilor Kwasinski.
The other matter that was new to the committee, the resolution in support of establishing a housing crisis task force. Councilor Jamrog McQuaid has asked us to not discuss at the last meeting, so we'll be having our next meeting on March 11th at 6 p.m. March 11th at 6 p.m. And we'll discuss it at that time.
Okay.
This concludes.
Great. Just really quickly, did you discuss the ad hoc committee council president appointments?
That we did, and we were going to present that at the next.
At the next one, okay.
Next meeting.
Just wanted to make sure it's following. All right, great, thank you so much. There is no old business. New business, I will turn it over to Vice President Jadzik.
Thank you, President. So to start off with, we have 5 new mayoral appointments, and give me 1 second as I pull those up. So these appointments, which I'm going to read out in the form of a motion to send these to the Appointments Committee. First, we have Kay Collins to the Community Relations Committee with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2027. Second, we have Alexander Barron to the Energy Advisory Committee with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2026. Third, we have Stephen Linsky to the Energy Advisory Committee with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2026. Fourth, we have Lydia Berry to the Energy Advisory Committee with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2026. And then finally, we have Angelique Baker to the Veterans Council with a term expiration date of December 31st, 2027.
So I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to send 5 mayoral appointments to the Appointments Committee. Any further discussion?
I just have
a comment?
Yeah. I don't, I think that this could be said for most of the times that we move these appointments through, but this time I actually had a chance to go read the letters that were written and everything, and I just wanted to comment and say that we're really lucky to have such a strong group of people. Someone with a PhD, someone with extensive experience.
Yep. Yep. This is just about sending the appointments to the, I think you could phrase it as, I enthusiastically send these appointments to the committee.
Yeah, no, overall, I just want to thank everyone for applying, and I enthusiastically, want to send them.
Okay, great. So I have a motion and a second to send 5 mayoral appointments to committee. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain? Great, motion passes.
Next, we have a mayoral request to create a healthcare costs stabilization fund, and I would like to make a motion to move this request to the Finance Committee.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second to send the mayoral request to create a healthcare cost stabilization fund to Finance. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great, motion passes. Regarding C, mayoral request to add 8 additional liquor licenses through legislation. I'm holding that because I've been in communication, and I've talked to the mayor, and I've also been in communication with Representative Gomez. He is actually getting more information regarding liquor licenses and the number of liquor licenses, et cetera. So I am waiting for that information so that that information can be sent with the motion, with the item to the committee, right? So I don't want to do those things separately. So I am holding that. For the next meeting, it will be in old business, and then we will address it then. Okay. And the last item.
Great. And then our final item is an interdepartmental transfer. And so I'd like to make a motion to...
goes to Tom. Tom has to do it first reading.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry.
This is an interdepartmental transfer. So what I'll do is I'll make a motion to do a first reading to send this to Finance for review and to schedule a public hearing for our next meeting, which is March 4th at 6:15 in these chambers. So request is hereby made for approval of the following appropriation. Amount requested, $20,000 to be transferred from mayor clerical salary, $20,000 to be transferred to city attorney professional services, $20,000. The amount requested will be used for the following purpose: legal costs billed for fiscal year 26. Since the last appropriation, we have received $22,518 in legal fees and have yet to receive bills for February through June.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the following appropriation of $20,000 to be transferred from mayor clerical salary, $20,000 to be transferred to city attorney professional services, $20,000. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Great, motion passes. And that is everything on our agenda. I will take a motion.
To adjourn.
I have a motion to adjourn. I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Great, motion passes. Great, thank you, everybody.
No, all good. I got go every day.